Hola, buen dia. It's me, Peppermint. And when I'm not on RuPaul's Drag Race or simply being New York City's sweetest diva, I'm tuned into the fabulously empowering Bayard Rustin Center for Social Justice Power Hour, coming to you every weeknight at 7 p.m. live from our good old friends at the BRCSJ Virtual HQ via their Facebook page. Tune in tonight.
Need in every community a group of angelic troublemakers.
Social justice, power hour, power hour, power hour. Social justice, power hour, power hour, power hour.
Good evening to our friends on the East Coast. Good afternoon to our friends in the West, and good in-between time to our friends in those in-between spaces. Welcome, 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 my friends. Welcome to the Social Justice Power Hour. Welcome to the virtual headquarters of the Bayard Rustin Center for Social Justice. My name is Robert Schreiber. I'm the chief activist here and your host for this evening, as I have been for the past year and 8 months. Over 450 some odd shows, many of them very odd indeed, my friends. We've been doing the doing it in style, not missing one single night, not missing a beat. Every night, come at you live on the Power Hour. Thanks for joining us in virtual communion. We're so excited to have you. We're so excited for tonight. Our old friend, we have old friends now, which is extraordinary and special. And I don't take it for granted in any way, shape, or form. In fact, I think it is. I just said this off air, but my agnostic atheist self calls it my form of a blessing to have Steve Brodner, master illustrator, with us tonight, and we'll get to it in just a moment. But before we do, I do want to share some things with you, because I do want you to come back to the Power Hour, because as I said, we are here every freaking weeknight, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Come back to us. We are here for you. Please be here with us. And speaking of being with us, I do want to give a special shout out. Monday night, we had the extraordinary Dr. Keisha and Blaine with us. And Keisha was incredible. I was a little taken aback, because she is such an extraordinary historian and figure in the community, and I was a little apprehensive. But we had such a wonderful conversation and went someplace that neither one of us really expected, but here in the Power Hour, that's part and parcel of what we do. We talked about her personal journey of how she came to telling Fannie Lou Hamer's story. So if you missed it on Monday, go back and watch it. It was super special. And speaking of super special, here we go. Cal Penn, as many of you heard last week, Cal came out, let us all in, shared his journey, shared his identity, shared who he is and who he loves. And we love him for it. And I've been under embargo, my friends, so I apologize for not sharing with you sooner. But Cal's going to be on the Power Hour to tell us further about his journey, to share his all the exponential and intersectional identities he embodies. And it's extraordinary the work that he's done, both as an actor and activist in the Obama White House, and now as member of our queer community. So come out and don't miss that really, really, really special conversation. And speaking of call and response, the story of Black Lives Matter, Veronica Chambers, you know her, you love her, you read her in the Times, now see her here on the Power Hour. Samson McCormick, what a great, he's a Black queer comic, incredibly controversial. Can't wait to chop it up with him about all that he says and does. Adam Gopnik, OG Radical, the real old friend of the show as well. Looking forward to him coming back. Farah Jasmine Griffin, read until you understand the profound wisdom of Black life and literature. Don't miss that one, my friends. We're doing a Throwback Thursday with our board member emeritus and Bayard Rustin's partner, Walter Nagel. He came on the show a while back and talked to Senator Scott Wiener out of California. Senator Wiener was the one that really spearheaded the effort to get Bayard pardoned for his crimes back in the 50s. So this was an extraordinary conversation between these two extraordinary men. And we're doing this in honor of the anniversary of Bayard being awarded the Medal of Freedom by President Obama, posthumously, of course. And we're also going to include a little bit from when Valerie Jarrett was on the Power Hour, and she talked about that day and that moment as well. So come out for that very special Throwback Thursdays. Every Tuesday, we have our queer yoga, so come out and take a breath with us, both literally and figuratively. Queer yoga master Jasmani takes us to virtual nirvana. And finally, this Friday, coming up in just a couple of days, we still have some tickets left. Late Style, Wesley Stace, a.k.a. John Wesley Harding, incredible musician, wonderful man, live in concert, live, in person, in community, masked and vaxxed, very safe, very smart, my friends, so you can come out and feel good. Come join us in community. All proceeds go to finding us a new home. For those of you who don't know, we lost our headquarters during the pandemic. We need a new space to gather together in community. It's hard to be a safe space without a space. So come out and join us for a good cause, for a great concert. This is Friday, this Friday coming up. Tickets are in the comment section. You can pop on the link, buy them early, buy them often, buy them for friends, buy them for family, buy them for enemies who will become friends. But buy them because we want to see you there at the concert. And that's just some of the stuff that's coming up both in the Power Hour and in our community. So do come back and be with us. But tonight, my friends, this is always such a bit, I have to tell you personally, a bit of strength and solace when Steve comes back to us. Steve Brodner is an illustrator, caricaturist, journalist, author, educator, lecturer, political commentator, rabble-rouser, and is accepted in the fields of journalism and the graphic arts as an absolute master of the editorial idiom. Featured in too many magazines, too many newspapers, too many online platforms to mention, as well as winning too many awards over his decades-long career to mention as well. What I will mention is that we all are incredibly, our whole community is incredibly honored that Steve makes a monthly visit to our show, sharing with us his latest inspirational illustrations from the extraordinary Greater Quiet series he does at The Nation magazine. The what? The Nation magazine. Yeah, don't miss it. As Steve his own self says, quote, "To me, it's just about showing up every day and telling as much of the truth as I can get my arms around." And we dig it the most that he puts his arms around our beloved community. So without further ado, no more my shenanigans. Please join me in welcoming one of our absolute favorite guests, the hardest drawn man in the illustration business, Mr. Steve Brodner, to our Bayard Rustin Center for Social Justice Power Hour. Steve, thank you so much for being back with us.
Robert, I don't know what to say. I mean, you're always so nice, but like this is I'm waiting for the real person to enter. You know, you gave such a wonderful introduction, and I'm like, who's coming?
No, you know what? Here's the thing. I'm not so nice. Anyone who knows me personally knows that I'm a complete asshole. Honest history, and maybe I'm sharing too much, but I love you so much. I really do. I don't like people, but I love the people. So I feel like you and I are simpatico in that way, and it shows in your work. So that's why I enjoy and are so engaged by our conversations.
We love people, but they're quite often horrifying, and that's what makes everything so complicated. So, everybody's a mixed bag. Everybody is messed up usually by their parents, and I think it's good to look at humanity through that lens. That everybody has a case, and everybody is at least a little screwed up. I think. Profoundly in most cases, and we hope that we can work with each other and work through our issues, work through our problems, if that's possible. But
so it's funny because this is something that's been running through the show the past couple of nights. We were talking to Ron Norsworthy, the incredible artist, and as I mentioned at the outset, Keisha Blaine, and talking about the important act of empathy that we all need to have, and you're definitely shouting that out right now. This idea that we look through the lens of understanding that we all come from difficulty. We all have our own traumas, our own anxieties, our own whatever it may be that we are journeying through. And if we see it through that lens, then we can be of service to each other and help each other.
And as I say to my students too, every human being that you know and that you look at is leading more than one life at the same time. We're all leading double lives or triple lives. And what I mean by that is that we are all here in the moment. We're present in the moment. But unless you are a Zen master, and there are some, our brains are somewhere else. Our brains are thinking about the past, being reminded of something we used to know that now we see something that triggers a memory, or triggers a fear, triggers a sense of the future, a dread, or an illusion, or an actual vision. Some people do see ghosts. I have never seen ghosts, but I don't disbelieve someone who claims to see them. I think that we're all surrounded by metaphorical ghosts of different kinds. And so, like, if you walk down the street and you see an old person, sometimes you'll think that looks like my mother. Or you'll see a little baby in a stroller and you'll say, I remember when my daughter was that age, or I remember my sister when she was that age, or all kinds of things are happening like that, you know. Oh, I had a car like that. Look at that car. That looks just like my car. And then you think about, well, who was in that car? And I think we're constantly fighting back from going there to going here and to be present. So when, Ram Dass wrote that book, Be Here Now, I think that he's talking about everybody has a double life. Everybody has at least 2 or 3 things going on in their present moment. And you'll be damned to find out exactly what it is. But when you walk down the street and you see all these people, know that they're thinking about and being present, and especially now with a little device, you can really be engaging with something else in another space and another time and not really being here. So in illustration, it's easier than in other arts, I think, to show the doubleness, to show this and that happening together at the same time.
And also being in the moment, I think that you're talking about 2 different aspects of life, right? You're talking about recognizing other people's journeys and seeing that they're not just who they appear to be, but they are someone with their own life story, with their own experiences, with what they're going through.
And you don't know about that. You have no idea.
And there's also this idea of being in the moment. And as an illustrator, I think that you have a very natural tendency for that you've trained so you can observe the things that you need to bring back when your fingers or your tablet or whatever else you're using at the time needs to recreate that moment. So you are probably more near to doing that, to being in that moment, making sure that you are observing and getting all of that, what's all around you.
More than one moment. Like more than one moment is happening at the same time. More than one experience is happening. They're in other words, it's a huge mystery. We think we know, and then we're frustrated. And I think anger comes from the frustration of, number one, not knowing what you thought you used to know, but you don't because you didn't know it in the first place. And then 2, you're disappointed with yourself. How could I be so stupid as not to know this? So to turn to politics, what happened last week with the Democrats not having a clue that they were going to lose so many elections and do so badly in New Jersey and Virginia, even though they won New Jersey. I think that's, first of all, disappointment and frustration. And number 2, how could I have failed? You're disappointed with yourself. And then number 3 for the Democrats is, how do we avoid a massive fascist takeover in 1 year, sorry.
Well,
and nobody knows the answer to that one.
Right. It's folks like yourself speaking out each and every day in your Greater Quiet series, which is a great segue. How was that? That was pretty smooth, right?
Very nice blend right there.
Thank you. So let's get to it. This is why again, you and I could talk for a full hour or a full few hours, and hopefully at some point we'll have that opportunity, maybe even live. That would be really extraordinary.
Yeah.
But for the time being, we have, I think, about 24 pieces that you've done since your last time here, which is, just phenomenal. And for those of you who don't know in our viewing audience that haven't had the pleasure of being with us when we have Steve on the show, Steve does a series of pieces, has done it since almost the very start of the pandemic, almost every weekday.
Every weekday.
Haven't missed it for a long time.
Single weekday.
Yeah, so every weekday at The Nation magazine, and they're a young upstart magazine, so I hope them the best. I hope that you can help them to succeed. So I'd like to see them prosper.
They started during the last Civil War.
Right. Very nicely done. I like that. Is that they have that as a crawl? That's very good. And I think since the last time you were on, we had Dave Zurin on, who is the sports editor there. And he's written a great book called The Kaepernick Effect, and had a great conversation with him. So we hold The Nation near and dear to our hearts and to our pandemic souls.
It's a great publication. Everybody who works there is super smart and worth reading. And I've been a contributor there for over 25 years.
You're a good man.
Very, very
good artist. Or maybe you're a good artist and a great man, or some combination thereof.
I'm an ink-stained wretch.
Yeah, well, I like that.
An aspiring schlemiel.
Schmazel.
No, I don't want to be a schlemazel. I don't want to be a schlemiel either, but we don't get to choose.
No, I don't think any of that's true. All right, so you do this every freaking weekday, just like we're here every freaking weeknight. You're here, and again, we won't dive into it, but
you can subscribe at Substack.
That'll be in the comments section.
And then also, it will be a book. I don't know if I told you.
You did, but tell us again, please. Tell our audience.
It's going to be a book coming out 2020, and the publishers are Fantagraphics Books, and they didn't like Great or Quiet.
I know.
They said, what the hell does that mean? I said, it doesn't have to mean anything. It just feels good. And they said, no, pick another title. So it's going to be called Living and Dying in America, A Daily Chronicle 2020 to 2022.
So you said
it's going to be like a brick. It's going to have like 500 pages and a really big, fat box. It's going to be a box of Brodner.
I see. That should be the name. There's your name right there. What the hell? There's your name. So you said 2020, but I bet you meant 2022, right?
No, it's 2022.
No, but you said published.
It's going to be published in 22.
All right.
Somewhere in the summer, I think. And then, but the title is Living and Dying in America, A Daily Chronicle 2020 to 2022.
And then if we don't have a space by then, there's going to be an issue with a lot of things. So we're definitely going to have you out for a book release party. That's no doubt, no diggity.
Let's do it. I'd love to come. It would be a great opportunity to come and see everybody.
And so Steve mentioned that you can subscribe to his Substack, and I want to thank, we have a new set of interns, but of course they're from Princeton University, so they have a highfalutin name. They're called Fellows. We have our Princeton University Fellows, which will be in the comments section tonight, sharing links and ways for you to connect to Steve and to us and to further our mission and what we do. And one of those links will be to Steve's Substack, which costs you nothing except the great enjoyment of having Steve's illustration pop up in your inbox every morning.
Sometimes very early.
All right. So let's get to it, my friend. Let's start. This is taking over from the day after you left us last month to now. So we're starting in first week of October.
All right. Here's, I started out by doing a lot of people who were taken from us by coronavirus pandemic, and the people I'm illustrating now who are the unvaccinated. And this is a teacher in Texas junior high. She died in August. She was nervous about returning to school because of the variant. Her sister told her that told the media that she had died days after testing positive for the virus and remained unvaccinated. And so, you know, we can have certain attitudes toward the unvaccinated where we blame them for their own misfortune, but we should not be uncompassionate toward them. And even the one today that I did, the last one you'll show is an anti-vax activist who died of it and kept denying that he even had it. I'm not sure I understand why people are this way, where it comes from, but in some cases, death does not seem to have the power to alter perceptions, the double life, or whatever that double life is for them. In that other world, there is no COVID, there is no vaccine, there is no science. And I wish everyone well, and I wish everyone to have their eyes opened about it.
And, you know, what the worst thing is, it's a tragedy within a tragedy, because this is absolutely preventable. And, you know, as much as we don't want to cast aspersions on anybody, and we want to give everybody the opportunity to live their lives to their own, but by the same token, you have to think they're putting so many of us at risk above and beyond themselves. So there,
and I think it's a special place in hell for the people who know better and are spreading disinformation about it for profit. People like Tucker Carlson and this priest in Romania in the New York Times today, where it's exploding COVID, and he's telling everybody not to get vaccinated. And they believe a priest, you know, he's their authority figure. And I don't know what to say. It's self-evident. If there is a sin, I think that's a sin.
And the other part is, I just want to talk about the artistry of what we're seeing and what you're doing. Is as we look at these folks, our viewing audience, I want you to know, if this is your first time being engaged with Steve's work, you're going to see a wide variety of technique, and sometimes I'm a little wonky and talk to you about process, because I just think it's fascinating.
I try to use different media every day, not to use the same, you know, for each face, there should be a different touch. And some of them are like really angry, pissed off political cartoons, and others are perhaps more sensitive drawings of a person. Here's Merrick Garland sitting on Trump's lap. And this has only gotten worse since I drew this.
Yeah.
Since that time, the recommendation was sent to him to indict Steve Bannon, and he has not done that, at least not as of this taping.
Right.
It's earlier than we're seeing it. So perhaps there's an indictment coming today. I haven't heard of it, and there are many, many more that need to be indicted. There was an insurrection, an attempt to overthrow the United States government. If I go to the candy store and I steal a pack of cigarettes, I'm going to Rikers Island, and I'm probably not going to come out for a while. But you try to overthrow the government, and then you get to go on Fox News. I don't know. I don't understand that.
Yeah, Merrick Garland is such a heartbreak to so many of us.
Yeah, after so many tears were shed over his not getting a hearing for the Supreme Court. Terrible. All right, so January sixpence, apocryphal of lies, 4 and 20 jailbirds baked in a pie. After the subpoenas, the birds begin to sing. Isn't that a great early bird special?
This is the epitome of Brodner. I love this. I love that you used your own handwriting on this. I know that for a lot of it you use the text, which is important so people can read it, and it's you know, it's there. But this, I love seeing, you know, your scrawl and all of it is just, this is a wonderful piece.
It just makes so much sense, you know. Sing a song of sixpence, January 6th pence. It's just sort of like, yeah, do it.
I'd love to have a friend who I intend to have murdered and hanged and you know, put up, you know, on a stake, and then comes back and says, "Hey, what else can I do for you?" You know, I would love to have that kind of loyalty.
Let's put it behind us.
Yeah, what? Nothing.
This is celebrating a co-winner of the Nobel Peace Prize, Dmitry Muratov, and he has been really brave in fighting against Russian oppression and a dictatorial oligarchic government, and has somehow survived. And here he is, looking rather jolly for under the circumstances. But how great that he won the Nobel Prize.
And here again, what a great distillation of his character, of who he is. You just capture the essence so well.
He shared it with another journalist as well. It's wonderful. The Nobel Committee honored journalists who were putting their lives at risk to tell the truth. And hasn't happened here yet, but oh my God. Here's a fun picture of Steve Bannon.
The other end of the spectrum.
The other end of the spectrum, claiming executive privilege to avoid testifying and complying with the committee subpoena. But this was done before they actually referred him to the Justice Department for contempt, which they did. And it has not, as we said earlier, it has not been resolved yet. What other way could it be resolved, other than an indictment and a court case? This, by the way, is done in ballpoint pen. So the other one was a pencil drawing. This is ballpoint pen. I always try to match the subject matter to the medium.
And what I love is that you're exploring, after decades of being in the business, as it were, and you've drawn this man how many times, unfortunately. But here's a totally new gestation of him, and it's phenomenal. It really is. I mean, I don't mean to get hyperbolic about your work, but I can't help myself. But it's amazing. We've seen so many pictures and so many drawings and so many caricatures of this abysmal human being. And this happens to capture something totally new in my eyes.
I always think of him as a rotting corpse. So why not draw him this way? So this just fell out of my ballpoint pen. I was just sketching. And I said, that's it. Don't touch it. Don't do anything.
You have to take away the paper. You have to take it away, right?
The Pandora Papers were an extensive project by many news organizations to track the money of the wealthy and how they hide it around the world. It turns out that 14 million made by some Dominican sugar plantation owners was parked in South Dakota. And so an example, as in one of the articles I read, was this lady, Maria Magdalena Alvarez, evicted from her home because these plantation owners did not have enough money. They need more, and they need to expand their plantations, and they will plow under lives of human beings who are living, on mouthfuls of rice and trying to raise a family, trying to have some kind of a life. And it makes you think about all the sugar we eat and what we can do about that. But also, there needs to be a universal global tax, which apparently is going to happen. Something good the Biden administration did, where all governments, including the Dominican government, will be demanding 15% tax, at least, from plantation and corporation owners. But that will not change their behavior, of course.
And what I love is about pairing these pieces, the one before and the absolute disdain shown for Steve Bannon, but here's an absolute bit of empathy shown for Magdalena, and it's just so what an extraordinary example of your range. And I also want to point out, because I think that we missed this at the outset, and for those of you that are not familiar, what Steve does is try to find these stories. Some of them are things that we're talking about, that we're taking note of, that we are bombarded with because they need to be further explored. But a lot of them are stories that fall through the cracks, that we're not hearing, that we're not witnessing, that we need to have amplified. And it's a
Well,
great,
they might be in the New York Times, but they may be on like page 23.
right,
You know,
exactly
and
right.
if it's not on page one, it's not going to get the attention. And even if you did read it in the New York Times, you turn the page. So here's just another, like, remember this.
Right.
This happened. This is definitely ballpoint pen. End of your pencil, or the end of your pen on the sketch pad. And it's a Halloween drawing, a silly Halloween drawing. But we have Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein. Governor Greg Abbott, his reckless ban on COVID mandates will lead to many more deaths in the state, already overwhelmed by COVID deaths. And a man named Robert Costello, Bannon's lawyer, informed the 1-6 committee that his client will not comply with subpoena using executive privilege. And of course, the Frankenstein monster has an orange wig.
Right.
And he says, good.
So sometimes the lowest hanging fruit is the sweetest.
Yes, very low hanging. I could do this once in a while. It's okay. And then we go to this lady here, Chantel Arnold. She was beaten by police after the police were called as she was being brutalized and bullied by a bunch of white boys. And this was in Louisiana, Jefferson Parish. And so the police felt that they needed to solve this problem by continuing to beat her up. And they are responsible for visible injuries to her. And I hope that there's a strong price to pay and a civil suit to come as well. I'm not sure what's happened to the police. If it goes true to form, not much. But that's what it's like to be black in America, and black women, and people who don't understand that or don't want to understand it will have to see pictures like this and news articles like this. And so it goes. This is America, but we don't stay silent.
And good for you, and thank you for that.
And here's Joe Manchin, wonderful Joe Manchin, who is trying to mitigate the climate provisions in the Build Back Better bill. And it turns out that West Virginia, after he says, well, I will try to do what West Virginians would see as best for them. This was when he was answering Bernie Sanders, saying, out-of-staters should not tell us what we need. But it turns out what they need is real serious climate action, because they turn out to be the one state that will suffer the most as a result of drastic climate emergency. So here's the flooding coming at Joe, and he's taking all the storms and hurricanes, but he's not letting go of the money clutched in his fist.
Enough said. Enough. Right.
It's all about the money. Another Rikers Island death. It is an ongoing, horrifying tragedy. We don't seem to have any control over what's happening over there. It's supposed to be shut down, but this was a man who had underlying health conditions, and so much so that he was considered for emergency release. Too late. By the time the paperwork came through, he was dead. And he's the 13th prisoner to die in the New York City jail system this year. And we have a new governor, and I don't think she's moving fast enough. We'll have a new mayor soon. I don't know if he puts this on his priority list. I'd shut the goddamn thing down right now. Break it up.
It's what a population in our country that people have no idea are in such emergent difficulties because they're thought of as refuse, as they don't deserve any sort of these are people, and you know, and we've talked about this, you know, with numerous guests on the Power Hour, that somehow our system has distorted and devolved from being rehabilitative to being penal, to being punitive only, and not understanding that we need to bring folks back to our society, need to bring people back.
They're a huge, important resource, and they actually are in a position to tell children about good choices and bad choices. And instead, all we want is vengeance, retribution, and I'm sorry, I think sadistic joy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So moving forward, first, before we start, tell me the technique of this piece, because this piece I was trying to figure out graphite, charcoal, but a mix of.
This is a watercolor piece.
Wow,
it's really all watercolor with some graphite touches and ink touches. But that's the way I do watercolor. I just you know, go in after it's dry and articulate it with a pencil or a pen. But these lines up here where Trump's face is coming out of his head, those are lines with a tiny watercolor brush.
Shut up! Really? That's wow! That's extraordinary work, my friend. Even I am so impressed above and beyond. That is technique, my friend.
It's 10,000 hours. Like anything you do a lot, you get better at. So I have these things I've been doing all my life, and I just continue to do them. But I do think, as I tell my students, that every time you do a finished piece, you get at least 2% better. And I think it's almost true. I think in their case, they get like 10% better. Sometimes they get 20% better. They have breakthroughs. In my case, I get 0.0000001% better. But I can tell you I do get better. But I do so many pieces that I feel I'm constantly, like any artist, you do something a lot and you see moments of progress, you make discoveries. Oh, look what happened. That surprised me. Wow, I'm going to do that again. I'm going to do more of that. You learn from yourself as much as from anyone else.
And you mentioned students, so I do want to give a shout out, because I don't think we've mentioned it during the show tonight, that you teach at School of Visual Arts, and that there are opportunities for outside folks that aren't students there. Yes. There are
you can take
night classes that you do.
My night classes in the winter. We're starting up again in January. I teach a class on drawing faces, and I teach a class on how to do illustrations, and it's for everybody. No matter what level you're at, we work together and we get to another level. And it's always supportive, and the other students are fantastic too. It's just a great group that meets every week. So
something else for you to look forward to.
If for an interest of yours, I'm here, and I love to work with you. Anyway, this is Bolsonaro, the president of Brazil, who was very Trumpian, and so that's why he's got Trump coming out of his hair, and he's being held responsible for 300,000 deaths in Brazil from coronavirus, because he's a big COVID denier. So if you're going to hold him responsible for the 300,000, how many can you hold Trump responsible for all these many months of denial, hydrochloroquine, ivermectin, or whatever that's called, where people are being distracted and deceived and confused about how to survive the virus. And he didn't get the vaccines out. They had the vaccines. He did not care about moving those out in a swift and massive way. And Biden did, even though Biden is being punished now for coronavirus. What do we do with Trump?
I wonder, I just had this, and maybe this is a ridiculous, stupid idea, but I'm going to feel like it's an epiphany for a moment. We've had in the past created war crimes due to circumstance. There should be a committee to create pandemic crimes, to crimes against humanity, that there are so many leaders and so many people who should have known better, and politically elected folks that have killed hundreds, thousands, and some of them hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
So we've had war crimes, we have war criminals, we should have pandemic criminals.
There is such a thing in the law as criminally negligent homicide. So you can go to jail if you do that to one person. What happens when you do it to tens of thousands of people? What would be the appropriate response by the legal system to that? You're just asking the question.
Just put it out there for the universe.
Put it out there. Angus King. Angus King is a famous independent senator, caucuses with Democrats, and he has been deeply troubled, as many of us have, about how democracy is being co-opted and cut down across the country. And he now has changed his position and supports the filibuster, which is admirable, and that's something. I'm sorry, filibuster reform, ending filibuster, where we would then be able to circumvent the obstructionism by Mitch McConnell and the Republicans. So I just thought I'd draw him and amplify his voice a little bit.
We appreciate that. And given this portrait, he'll be played in the movie by Ken Howard.
Okay.
I have to say, this piece floors me. I just love seeing you just kind of, I can tell you enjoyed this.
This is like, I have sketchbooks full of things like this. But, again, it's the doubleness, right? People being two things, more than one thing at a single time. This is a man who is a thoroughgoing racist, so why not have at him? He was at Charlottesville, where 24 white supremacists are being brought to trial under the Ku Klux Klan Act of 1871. I don't know how the trial is going today, but it's using this law, this act, to prosecute the death of Heather Heyer, who was killed by an automobile. She was a counter-protester that day. So this is a statement of the culpability of these type of people, and it is a quote from Karen Dunn, the lawyer serving as co-counsel, saying this is enormous undercurrent of planning and intent and of purposefulness that we all need to wake up to. This is no different than what happened on January 6th. It's all the same story. It is the march of the fascist right in this country, which now has its headquarters in the Republican Party, and that's who they either embody, the philosophy they embody, or they actually advocate or are adjacent to. In any case, they have a lot to answer for. And if they do well in 2022, in spite of all this, we have got major problems here, and they cannot be permitted to win. So this is the time to really become very active, connect up with your groups, and start getting louder and louder, because this used to be America.
And you absolutely encourage folks to share your work, to put it out there, to amplify, so people can hear these stories, whether it's this, where we need to make sure we stay on our elected officials to make sure that this is pursued, or a story like the Pandora Papers, or whatever else you see here tonight. If there's something that inspires you and you want to bring it out to your communities, to our viewers, please, Steve does encourage you to use his work and to amplify the voices you're trying to amplify.
Use my work, but also get on social media and link to articles that you think may be less publicized, things that need to be brought to public attention. This is everybody's responsibility. It's not just a good thing to do. It's a vital, important, urgent thing that we all do.
It's the very essence of our freaking democracy, right?
Yeah. And it's becoming clearer that the 1-6 operation was an inside job. So one day recently, Rolling Stone nailed the Republican members of Congress who aided in the planning of the insurrection. And AOC said anyone who is an elected official who helped organize this and pull it off should be expelled from the Congress. I don't see what Nancy Pelosi is waiting for.
Yeah. This piece reminds me of like the absolute most nightmarish opening to the worst sitcom ever produced. That's what it looks like to me.
Which one was that?
it doesn't exist, thankfully, but like this would be this is like the anti-Friends. This is like
anti-Friends, enemies.
You never want to see.
Insurrects, yeah. No,
there you go. See, you and I.
Hey, Robert, there's going to be movies about this thing. It is going to be the whole era is going to be like, how many movies were made about World War II or Vietnam. This whole Trump era is going to be the subject of miniseries and you name it. So, speaking of which, here's another focus on these guys. Right now, there's a tremendous amount of persecution by mobs who feel empowered by Trump and the Republican Party to go after secretaries of state who will be able to oversee elections. Also, teachers in schools. This is being sanctioned and approved of by people at all levels of the Republican Party. So here's an illustration of goons, GOP goons, going after people who are just doing their jobs, and the terrible messages they're getting, the threats they're getting. Congress people, AOC in particular, the story yesterday where this Gosar put up the most horrendous video that should get him in jail, put him in jail. This is a threat to someone's life, publicizing a threat to someone's life.
It's amazing because you think that if that happened in a regular office building,
right,
that person, there'd be he'd be fired. There'd be charges. There'd be all sorts of very righteous and rightful.
What are we afraid of here? Why are we going so softly on them?
Yep.
These are ferocious animals, and they need to be in a cage. Here are the two people that Rittenhouse killed. That's another trial that's going on now. Kyle Rittenhouse in Kenosha, who decided that it would be a great idea, 17-year-old idiot, to bring an AK, was AR-15 into the streets and start firing at people. And he killed these two activists who, and now apparently a hard right fascist judge says they can't even be called victims. These two young men could be called rioters or looters or arsonists in the trial. So good luck to us.
May I ask you a question? This piece is so strong, and you capture, again, not to repeat myself, but the essence and really the beauty of these two individuals.
Thank you.
Do either, when it's folks who have left us, unfortunately, do the families or people they know ever get in touch with you and say thank you? Or
once in a while that has happened, and I'm very grateful when that does. And if they want a high definition print, I send it to them.
It's beautiful. Well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
You love on this guy. You've done this guy a few times. I love it. I love it.
The guy with the horns, the shaman. But it's Garland again, Merrick Garland, and the chief judge at the federal court in D.C. said prosecutors appeared almost schizophrenic in describing the insurrection in extreme terms, but then settling for second-tier misdemeanor plea agreements. This is a muddled approach by the government, he says. I'm trying to make sense of the government's position here. So, again, I'm expressing great frustration, as many of us are, with Merrick Garland, who is just for whatever reason being very tolerant of the situation and not moving on it fast enough, or in some cases at all. Here's some good news. Biden administration restored protections for migratory birds that have been swept away by Trump. Oil businesses, landowners, etc., will no longer be able to kill birds and not be punished. North America has lost nearly 3 billion birds in the last 50 years. Climate change, collision with buildings, power lines, oil waste pits, and spills are major causes of the losses. There are 1 million species at risk of extinction as well, part of the story, and the growing biodiversity crisis caused by climate issues. I got to draw a barn owl.
It's beautiful. Well done, my friend.
Thank you. Tina Stege represents Marshall Islands. So they're still in the middle of the COP26, which is increasingly seen as a terrible failure. There are commitments that are made by the governments, but not nearly enough. And the commitments are not nearly specific enough. And I don't know if you listened to Amy Goodman on Democracy Now!, but she reported the influx of lobbyists to COP26 as the largest single delegation, outstripping any other national delegation. The lobbyists have come to, in the words of Greta Thunberg, greenwash the scene. And they seem to be having a very big impact because money talks. And she is the representative of the Marshall Islands, which are very close to disappearing. They are practically at sea level. There's no mountain elevation for them to run to. When the sea levels rise just a little bit more, that's the end of the Marshall Islands. And that's not like in the future, that's happening right now.
It's amazing how we turn a blind eye to this. I do want to get a little wonky on process. I have to ask you, how did you do the hair on this piece?
The hair is done with a pen, a felt tip pen.
Yeah.
Face is drawn with, it's a pencil drawing in line that I then turn to red in the computer. The computer enables you to change anything you like. So you just have to know what you want. And
there's a beautiful texture to the hair, and it's amazing how you know how to leave those little pieces.
It's just like a felt tip pen that you're filling in. And yeah, thank you. Joe Manchin is a dung beetle. This is a quote from Bill McKibben, great climate activist. Manchin is the perfect example of how big oil works. He's taken more money than any other senator in the fossil fuel industry, And there was that sting videotape a couple of weeks ago where Exxon's chief lobbyist reported talking to him every week and calling him their kingmaker. There was a report yesterday that Manchin spent part of September huddled with all the leading coal barons at a golf resort. So here's poor Biden as a dung beetle, just spending all his time pushing the huge ball up the hill.
The Sisyphus of dung beetles.
Yes, the hill never ends. This is a videotape I saw of a young lady named Mackenzie Atwood, senior at Franklin High School in Franklin, Massachusetts. She was speaking to a school board meeting about bullying of LGBTQ students. And in the middle of her talking about this and informing them about what's happening in her school, one of the parents got up and started to yell at her as if to demonstrate what bullying looks like in the classroom, saying that this has to stop, this is indoctrination. So, but she didn't back down, Ms. Atwood. Through her tears, she told the truth. And that's brave. You can't stop people from being cruel or stupid, but you can stand your ground and tell the truth and that's the way to win. And God bless her. We love her.
And I'll tell you, this piece was very meaningful to a lot of people in our community, so thank you for that.
Well, thank you for Ms. Atwood. This is, we're coming to the end. This is Donald Baird. Another, sometimes you find good news. Founder of Block Power, Brooklyn-based company focused on greening aging buildings. So he was able to convince Ithaca, New York, which is a real city, to decarbonize all of its buildings. And they're going to do that. 6,000 buildings in the city, and there are about 30,000 people involved, and they are going to go carbon neutral, which is fantastic. And how wonderful also that we have entrepreneurs who are, going in as well as governments to make change like this. And he's kind of a hero. Miriam Adelson, the widow of Sheldon, who died earlier this year. These are some of the most despicable people on the planet. But she has apparently come out of mourning just long enough to hold a soiree for GOP leaders and 2024 hopefuls at her Las Vegas home, palatial Las Vegas home. She is the fifth richest woman in the world with an estimated fortune of $32.4 billion. The Adelsons have given $500 million to the Republican Party over the last 10 years. So here she's serving one of her specialties, which is more little insurrection guys for America. The nexus between the very rich and the very stupid. And feels like the Civil War, like Civil War was fought by slave owners, financed by slaveholders, but fought on the fields by people who didn't have one slave at all. They're just poor slobs who were sent into battle for a couple of bucks, a couple of Confederate bucks, and also with the idea that they were defending their homes and their families against Yankee oppression. It's the same story now. These are the slobs who are going to go to jail, and Ms. Adelson will never go to jail, and will maybe get to choose the next president as she did last time.
And this is our last piece.
This ran today. Mac Parhar, or Mock Parhar, he's Canadian, a COVID denier, dead, COVID-19, of an illness that he denied exists, and wound up making videos denying that he had it. And he also called it Convid. And so he's a victim of his own stupidity and public acceptance of the same. Again, I end the month the way we started it, where we have the deniers, and it is now a pandemic of deniers, of the unvaccinated, the unmasked, people without whatever those resources are to help you make good decisions in your life. I'm not a psychologist, so I can't explain why people are this way, but they are. Anyway.
So I thank you, and we thank you again for sharing this month's worth of The Greater Quiet, which you can find in The Nation magazine, but better off, subscribe, please, to Steve's Substack, which there's a link in the comment section, which costs you absolutely nothing, again, except for the joy of Steve Brodner artwork popping up in your inbox every single weekday morning.
It is a daily thing on Substack, and then it appears in The Nation on Friday. All the pieces are collected for the week on Friday around 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 12 noon. And it's kind of cool that they're all together, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And anyway, I'm very grateful to you, Robert. It's always a pleasure to hang with you. And these are important stories. It's worth drawing about, and it's worth talking about here. And it's worth for all of us to be motivated by the urgency that we feel to stay loud and be in the face of authority and piss off all the right people.
I like that. That's perfect. Oh my gosh, that's like vintage Brodner to go out on piss off all the right people. My friends, go out there and piss off the right people. Can't wait to have you back next month. I am underselling it when I say I look so much forward to when you arrive on the Power Hour.
Likewise, Robert. Thanks for all that you do and the Rustin Center. And we all have to stick together at this time. It is, very hard to be generous and create space for each other when we're surrounded by hostility and people who want to turn every aspect of daily life into a war. How to live inside of that, where there is no war, where there is no conflict, but also to be able to fight for the things that you care about on the peripheries where it matters. In schools, we have to ban the book burning. In politics, we have to ban the people who want to ban science and people who want to install and instill racism even more in our culture than it exists now. And that just takes us, as Mr. Rustin said. Angelic troublemakers.
Angelic troublemakers, my friend.
Like you.
You're one of the best. Be well, best to your family, best to you. We'll see you in a month. Be healthy, be kind, be angry, piss off the right people.
See you next time. Thank you.
So that is Steve Brodner, everybody. A good friend to the show, a good friend to our community, and a wonderful voice that amplifies so many others. And you can do that yourselves, and please do. Go out there and, as we just said, I'll say it again, piss off the right people, my friends. Until soon, much love and respect. Be back here at the Power Hour. We are here every freaking weeknight, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Come out Friday night to our Wesley State benefit concert. Tickets are in the comments section. Do come out and help us find a new home. It's hard to be a safe space without a space, y'all. But above all, be good to each other. Be good to your families, chosen or otherwise. And most especially, my friends, please, as always, be good to yourselves. You need it, and we need you here with us.
We need in every community a group of angelic troublemakers.